Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabhadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Jai. Let's read the translation of those verses which we sing at the beginning of the Bhagavatam class. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Naranarayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Jai. So that's the benefit of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So today the topic that has been given is forgiveness. So we'll start with a verse where it's mentioned nicely, and then we can discuss more on this topic. So this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 15, Text 40. Kshamaya rochate lakshmir Brahmi sauri yata prabha Kshaminam ashu bhagavangs Tushyate haririshwaraha Kshamaya rochate lakshmir Brahme sauri yata prabha Kshaminam ashu bhagavangs Tushyate haririshwaraha Kshamaya rochate lakshmir Brahme sauri yata prabha Kshaminam ashu bhagavangs Tushyate haririshwaraha. Kshamaya rochate lakshmir Brahme sauri yata prabha Kshamina ashu bhagavangs Tushyate haririshwaraha. Kshamaya rochate lakshmir Brahme sauri yata prabha Kshaminamasu bhagavangs Tushyate haririshwaraha. Jai. I forgot to tell you to use the microphone. That's okay. So we'll read the word to word. Kshamaya, simply by forgiving. Rochate, becomes pleasing. Lakshmihi, the goddess of fortune. Brahmi, in connection with Brahmanical qualifications. Sauri, the sun god. Yata, as. Prabha, the sunshine. Kshaminam, unto the Brahmanas who are so forgiving. Ashu, very soon. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tushyate, becomes pleased. Hari, the Lord. Ishvaraha, the Supreme Controller. Translation and purport by His Divine A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari is pleased with those who are forgiving. Please repeat. The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is pleased with those who are forgiving. Jai. Purport. Different personalities become beautiful by possessing different qualities. Chanakya Pandit says that the cuckoo bird, although very black, is beautiful because of its sweet voice. Similarly, a woman becomes beautiful by her chastity and faithfulness to her husband. And an ugly person becomes beautiful when he becomes a learned scholar. In the same way, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras become beautiful by their qualities. Brahmanas are beautiful when they are forgiving. Kshatriyas when they are heroic and never retreat from fighting. Vaishyas when they enrich cultural activities and protect cows. And Shudras when they are faithful in the discharge of duties pleasing to their masters. Thus everyone becomes beautiful by his special qualities. And the special quality of the Brahmana as described here is forgiveness. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangsha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation once again. The duty of a Brahmana is to culture the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari is pleased with those who are forgiving. So this topic of forgiveness, here there's a beautiful reason mentioned why we should forgive. It is to please the Lord. So that's the ultimate goal. In fact, in the chapter we were just reciting the Mangalacharan from, there is a beautiful verse. Yes, here. The supreme occupation for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. And then it specifically states, yes, here verse 13, O best among the twice born. It is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of the life is to please the personality of Godhead. So that's the ultimate goal of life, is to please the Lord, by which, as we mentioned in the earlier verse 6, that's the only way by which we can be completely satisfied. The self can be completely satisfied. So people don't know this formula. In this material world, everybody is trying to become happy on their own account by doing various things, by various plans, schemes, thinking that that would make me happy. But in these two verses, it's so nicely described that the ultimate occupation is to serve the Lord. When the Lord becomes pleased, we automatically become pleased, satisfied. So there is no other endeavor that we need to do extraneously to find our own satisfaction. And so this verse 13, Ata Pombir Dvijashreshta Varnashrama Vibhagashaha Swanashtitasya Dharmasya Sangsiddhir Haritoshanam. So the different duties or orders have different, they are prescribed differently, so that by performing their own occupation, they can please the Lord. So that the society as a whole operates nicely for the ultimate purpose of elevating humanity to Krishna consciousness. So this verse that we were reading today, it's actually spoken by Lord Parashuram's father to Parashuram after he kills all this Kshatriya. So this is his father saying. We can read some verses in the context. Parashuram described to his father and brothers his activities in killing Kartaviryarjuna. Upon hearing of those deeds, Jamadagni, who is Parashuram's father, spoke to his son as follows: O a great hero, my dear son Parashuram, you have unnecessarily killed the king, who is supposed to be the embodiment of all the demigods. Thus you have committed a sin. My dear son, we are all Brahmanas and have become worshipable for the people in general because of our quality of forgiveness. It is because of this quality that Lord Brahma, the supreme spiritual master of this universe, has achieved his post. The duty of a Brahmana is to cultivate the quality of forgiveness, which is illuminating like the sun. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari is pleased with those who are forgiving. My dear son, killing a king who is an emperor is more severely sinful than killing a Brahmana. But now, if you become Krishna conscious and worship the holy places, you can atone for this great sin. So you can see how important this quality is. It can even get you the post of Brahma. So that's the context in which this verse is spoken. And there are many other examples of forgiveness that's there in the Bhagavatam and other places. Do you remember any other pastimes or stories that particularly strikes you? Yeah, other instances.
Durvasa Muni being forgiven by
Yeah, very
Ambarish
nice.
Maharaj.
Yes.
And Arjuna forgiving Ashwatthama's son.
Right. Very nice. You have something? Mike.
Yeah, Draupadi actually begs to Arjuna to forgive when Arjuna goes, when all the children of Pandavas were killed.
Right.
Arjuna is very angry and he wants to do the same thing. But Draupadi, as being a mother, she says, I know how difficult it is to lose a child, so please don't do that.
Right.
So,
very nice. Yeah, so one question that may arise is why should we, why is that a requirement to please the Lord? Why is forgiveness, why is the Lord pleased by forgiveness?
Because we are all part and parcel of Krishna.
Mm-hmm.
So if, and Krishna is loving to everyone. He loves everybody equally and unconditionally.
Right.
So if we holding something against a living entity, in essence we are actually holding against Krishna.
Right.
So it is one way of showing our love to Krishna, that because of our connection with Krishna, we will forgive everybody.
Very nice. Very nicely said. Yeah, it's the basically lack of forgiveness means holding on to the anger or resentment or grudge. Mataji, I think it's a little too loud. There's an echo, I think. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So it interferes with the cultivation of bhakti, which actually is to soften the heart and make it a place where the Supreme Lord can reside and relish our loving devotion. So, holding on to these things is actually first of all, the person that is most affected is us. So that's why it's very important. It's actually in many cases people think by not forgiving they are actually not losing something valuable. Like if we may think that by forgiving I am losing something valuable, but actually it's not the case. Actually we are benefiting, because it takes a little bit of maturity and realization to understand that it's actually I'm affecting myself by holding on to these things. I'm affecting my own bhakti by holding on to these things. So Gandharvika Mataji sent a nice email about this topic few days back, in which the example was given as a person holding hot coals, like that. So it's like holding hot coals, maybe with the intention to throw on somebody, but then the longer the more you hold, it's actually burning your fingers, burning your hand, but we don't realize that. That's why it's very important for our own purification and advancement. We should practice it. And then there are many examples in the Shastra. So I was hearing a nice seminar series by His Grace Mahatma Prabhu. He's an expert on this topic. I don't know if you have heard or read some of his articles on this topic. They are there in krishna.com. And I didn't. In fact, he has a 6-hour course on this topic. So we had invited him to Google for a program. This was last year or maybe the year before. And he said, he wanted to present this topic, and I was thinking, what? Like, who is going to care about forgiveness? In a high-tech company like Google, like where people are so passionate and doing this and that. Like, this will be such a. I was thinking like that. It will be such a out of place topic for that audience, but we have kind of they experiment with different types of topics, and this is something Prabhu is expert at, so let me just schedule a talk. And I kind of warned him that maybe only 5-10 people may come for that talk, and that's okay. And then it ended up we had like almost like 40-50 people for that talk. And the thing that was most striking to me was like first half an hour of the talk, people were kind of you can kind of get a sense how much absorbed people are. So they were, he was just like warming up, and people were like kind of getting into the message. And then the second half an hour, like completely riveted. You could see that absorption energy in the room. He's such an expert presenter of this topic, and the way he presented this, and these are all like not practicing devotees. These are mostly public people. They're not necessarily coming to the regular classes we had at the time, but to captivate such an audience on such a serious kind of grave topic, I thought, what? How is this possible? That's the expertise of these advanced devotees who have kind of realized these topics to the to such an extent they can communicate the ideas and the situation with others so that it can benefit them. So it's not just it's not just a kind of a devotional quality for it's actually so beneficial. Otherwise, why would all those people come? That's why I was thinking. So that means there is so much people need this topic to actually help themselves out of the situations. And even more striking was after the class, generally, like, it's already a 1 hour class, so, and it's the evening time, 4 to 5, so we would expect people to leave like that. But they sat, like, almost a third of them sat for another 1 hour just around him asking questions, like whoever asked questions, others were just following. And I've never seen that in any other program we had organized. I was thinking, what? Like, that's, And then after the class, he was mentioning about the 6-hour course that he does, or 8-hour course. Many people came and told me that actually we should invite him back for that course. 8-hour course. I thought, wow, my God, like that's how much, people benefit by the purification process of letting things go. So in other words, we hold on to so much things that it actually disturbs our own happiness and peace. And people have a sense of that. They may not know how to actually do it, but when it's explained nicely, they could relate with it. And then this whole topic, he would just very briefly touch on the philosophical or the devotional aspects of the topic, but even without touching through them, he was passing on a very spiritual message by appealing to the whole mood of being in a very forgiving state. So in that, one of the things, so I was inspired by that, and I listened to some of the recordings he has on the krishna.com, so I prepared some notes. Probably I'll just go through it. I didn't have a lot of time to collate it in a PowerPoint or something, but I'll just go through it. But there are so many beautiful points he mentioned, so I thought I could share them. So one of the things Mahatma Prabhu was mentioning is how when we read of these examples of, say, Ambarish Maharaj or Prahlad Maharaj or Haridas Thakur, we may think, oh, those are ideal thing. I'm not expected to follow that standard. I'm like such a small devotee, so why would I have to do things at that level? So we kind of write off some of these and do not think that, I have to practice doing that. Of course, they are such an ideal, exalted Mahabhagavata state, but that doesn't mean that we should not practice, developing those qualities. So that was one of the points I was mentioning, that that's the whole point of sadhana bhakti, is to practice these ideals in our own life. We may be falling short of the standard so many times during the practice. That's just like a child trying to walk. It will fall. It's expected to fall at the beginning, but then after it gets the sufficient balance, it can go on walking and running and all other things. So like that, so we should try to practice this as a conscious endeavor. Even if we fail, that's okay, but we should try to develop that mood that I have to try to follow these examples of these exalted devotees. It's not just there for relishing in the Bhagavatam and not applying, but it's actually meant for application. And we hear from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtakam that Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanena Manadena Kirtane Sadahari. So, without forgiving, how can we practice such an elementary verse of our teaching? Right? That verse is a prerequisite for chanting constantly. If you want to chant constantly without being disturbed by this or that, that's the mood or the state of mind we should be in to be able to go on chanting consistently day after day, year after year, and stay on in devotional service and then advance to the other stages. So, and also Prabhu was mentioning how Srila Prabhupada mentions that you should see that you should see how your qualities are developing. So that's actually the test of our devotion. So one thing is our practice. So how do you measure that practice? How do you observe the effects of the purification? So that's by the development of these qualities. So recently I was talking to a devotee. So she is practicing last few years, but her husband is not interested in Krishna consciousness. So I asked him, how do you deal with it? She said, yeah, it's very tough because we don't have anything in common. And then, it's kind of, he's not interested in this and I'm not interested in the movies and this and that. So then I asked, like, yeah, I told one way to help them understand is by our own behavior. By developing these qualities, they can see the difference. And she told, yes, actually that's very true. Because whenever I get angry, my husband says, what? You've been chanting for so many years, 5 years, but still you are, angry and all these things. So there's no purification that has happened to you. So we were laughing how even though the husband apparently doesn't have faith in the Krishna conscious process, right? He's at least hoping that would change his wife's behavior. So in other words, he has the faith, just that he's not seeing an example of application of that faith in his own family. So that's not taking him further. You see what I mean? Like if we are really practicing all these things so nicely, it should manifest in our qualities, and that is the proof. That's a very undeniable proof for the people around us that this process works. I know this person was like this before, and this person is like this. How could that have happened unless the process is working? So it's a way of preaching, actually, very powerful preaching. Nobody can deny that you have gone through the purification. And in this example, she was sharing, like, the husband apparently has that faith that the process will purify, but he's not seeing the example of it. So sometimes that's what they say, actions speak louder than words. So it's how we behave is how we actually preach, how we convince others, not so much by what we say. So and then to that, this Mataji replied, oh, there are people even like chanting 10 years, 15 years, even still they are like that. So that's how she was kind of justifying the fact that, she hasn't purified enough. So, and then we were joking, like, wow, the husband would lose further hope. Oh my God, at least since you are doing all these things, even though I don't like it, I'm at least hoping some benefit will come out of it. Now he may lose hope because of that. So that's the idea is here. We have to practice these qualities and consciously develop those qualities. That's part of our sadhana bhakti, and see how much we are actually progressing on these path. Like for people who are data oriented, they call these as metrics by which they measure the progress. So, and the effect of practicing is that it's actually so liberating. Practicing these qualities of giving up unwanted anarthas, it's purifying, it's very liberating. And he also gave an example of a mother whose son was in a bar. He was trying to kind of touch a girl in the bar, and then the girl killed him for like kind of a minor offense, and then she had to go to jail. And then this mother had such a nice heart. She went to the jail and she became the girl's therapist, even though that girl killed her own son. And just like as we were saying about Draupadi, it's such a motherly heart that despite her son being killed by that person, she was willing to help that person. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan ki Jai, Shri Mahaprabhu ki Jai, Shri Shri Lakshmi Narasimha Bhagwan ki Jai. Do you know who dressed the deities today? So beautiful. Kameshwari Mataji and Balimardhan Prabhu. So wonderful. They are glowing, refulgent. Jai. So yeah, so that mother became the son, therapist of that person who killed her own son. So one very nice point Mahatma Prabhu was mentioning is how you don't have to be a kind of an extraordinary person to practice these things. So he was saying how this person was apparently a very ordinary person in life, but she demonstrated this extraordinary behavior of being able to forgive and relate with that. So that's one. It also brings to the point that one important distinction is that it doesn't mean that by forgiving somebody we let them go off the hook and then let them be a disturbance to others or the society. It doesn't mean that we don't take action against them. So taking action and making sure they are learning and making sure they are following the law, whatever, that is not, that and forgiving, they are not mutually exclusive. You can do both. You can forgive at the same time, hold them legally accountable, and not with a grudging mood, but with the mood of benefiting them as well as benefiting others in the society. It's done with a mood of responsibility as to how to handle the situation. So what is not good is holding the grudge or resentment in our heart as the reason for that behavior. That is what is not good. And also Prabhu was mentioning one of the psychology behind why people hold on to things without forgiving. So it's because it gives us an excuse to cover our own anger or behavior like that. So for example, like, let's say if somebody mistreated me, so I can hold on to that fact that they mistreated me and then use that as an excuse to not change my behavior. Every time, that thought comes to change my behavior, I may justify saying, no, they mistreated me, like, why should I change? That's the way we actually delude ourselves by using that as a weapon, actually, to not make the advancement or not purify our own consciousness that we are expected to. Does it make sense? So it's because if we lose that weapon, then we are accountable to, upgrade our behavior, which we don't want to. We can see that in kids sometimes. Let's say a kid is not tidying up things, and then the mother shouts at the kid, and then the kid goes into a tantrum, and then sits in a corner of the house, and then doesn't do anything else also, like including his homework, including his other things. Then the father may ask, hey, why are you not doing this? Oh, that's because mother scolded me. So under the pretext of that scolding, they don't do anything else as well, not just that one thing that they got scolded for, but they use it as an excuse to extend it to other things. So same thing we also do as adults by kind of covering our faults behind somebody else's fault and kind of living in that illusion that I'm not responsible for my wrong behavior because it was that person who started it, or it was that person who made me do like this, like that. The thing is, the real problem here is we are the ones that don't want to let it go, so that purification is not happening. That's because we don't want to let it go. So that's because we hold it as a symbol of resentment. The real irony here is it's so easy to drop that and then move on, but we just don't want to do it. So it's just like the coal example. You hold the coal in your hands and then, it burns your hand, but you don't want to give it up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Pranam, this is Radha Kripadas, Prabhu. I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead. Dandavas.
Prabhu, forgiving, I was just trying to understand, once you deal a scenario where you see the repeated behavior, like, in the beginning you can take it, you know what, okay, I forgive, or, this is, I can tolerate. But once you see the repeated behaviors, which is, can cause, resentment, in the mind, like, hey, I'm trying to forgive, but it continue to happen. So how to handle such scenarios?
Yeah, there is that nice story that Srila Prabhupada gives, where actually it's nice that you brought up that point. That's in that story, the sage that's near the bank of a river, he sees a scorpion, and then he tries to, it's trying to fall from a tree to the water and get drowned, so he tries to save it, but it bites his hand, and then he again puts it back, and then it again does the same thing. It bites his hand, but still he's trying to save it every time. And then a nearby person asked, why are you, doing this? He's saying, so to bite is the nature of the scorpion, and to save is my nature. In other words, we don't change our nature because of others' behavior. That's the instruction of that story. Of course, in a practical manner, we may not have that kind of a capacity as that sage to be like that. If you have that capacity, well and good. If not, yes, forgive. Don't hold on to those things in your heart, but make sure you don't get affected again. It's if that's your level at which we can operate, that's fine. It's definitely better than not forgiving. Even if you cannot repeatedly forgive, just at least forgive once, but keep a distance from that relationship, knowing that they will do it again and hurt you. So it doesn't mean that, again, that example of that sage is a very ideal example. That's, if you can follow, that's great. But even if not, there is no harm, there is no, it's not incorrect to protect yourself having been through once. Like, it's like once bitten, twice shy. So it's not wrong to, in fact, that's one of the things Mahatma Prabhu was mentioning in his lectures, the difference between forgive and forget. For minor things, you can forgive and forget, but when it says comes to some, let's say, abuse or some major thing somebody has done to you that you can't trust them or whatever, so you forgive them, but don't forget the fact that you forgave them, so that you don't, you are not victimized again in a chained manner, but do what is needful to safeguard. So that's allowed. So it doesn't conflict with the principle of forgiveness.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I think this is helpful. Like basically, after forgiving, we shouldn't forget, so that way our conscious be aware, if repeat things happens.
Yes.
So that way we kind of keep a distance, or, handle or protect ourselves rather than being affected again by such scenarios which could affect our life itself. So.
Right. So that's basically, it's all about maintaining a healthy attitude over the situation. Because sometimes when we are too attached also, we expect things to change the way we think, but it's not going to happen. So there are many examples of that. Actually, maybe it's time to read that nice description from the 17th chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam. So this comes in the part where the bull and the bull is having a conversation with Maharaj Parikshit. So the bull is actually standing on one leg only, and then Maharaj Parikshit asks, "What happened to you? Who is causing this disturbance to you?" So let's probably, yeah. So he asked, tell me who did this. I'll make sure they get the punishment. Yeah. So to that the bull replies as follows. The bull is actually a personification of the supreme and the personality of religion, Dharmaraj. So he says, the personality of religion said, "These words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty, captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas. Even Lord Krishna, the supreme, the personality of Godhead, performed duties as a messenger." So it refers to the words spoken by Parikshit to comfort the bull and to make sure he will see to it that it gets justice. And then the bull is replying, "O greatest among human beings, it is very difficult to ascertain the particular miscreant who has caused our sufferings, because we are bewildered by all the different opinions of theoretical philosophers." So the bull is describing how it is so hard to, come up with a precise thing as to why we are suffering. And then he's going to give a bunch of kind of different perspectives on why things happen. So we'll just see some of the reasons and then conclude with a wonderful purport that Srila Prabhupada says in this regard. Some of the philosophers who deny all sorts of duality declare that one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. Others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while yet others say that activity is responsible, and the gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause. There are also some thinkers who believe that no one can ascertain the cause of distress by argumentation, nor know it by imagination, nor express it by words. O sage amongst kings, judge for yourself by thinking over all this with your own intelligence. So the bull didn't reply directly, right? So that's the actual message. That's the actual message it's conveying, which Parikshit is too smart to figure out. And then now you can hear Parikshit's reply. The king said, "O you who are in the form of a bull, you know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to the principle that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. You are no other than the personality of religion." This is a very, very kind of a serious point. People may really even get confused. How can this be a principle of religion? So we'll see that in the purport. But the main point here is Parikshit is telling to the bull, you are not telling who caused you this suffering, because by identifying him, you also get the same reaction as the person that caused the suffering. It's like such a high bar in Vedic culture. Look at the principle. Even by telling that this person hurt me, you are going to get the same destination as the person that hurt you. How is that? It sounds too harsh, right, at the outset. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, a devotee's conclusion is that no one is directly responsible for being a benefactor or mischief monger without the sanction of the Lord. Therefore, he does not consider anyone to be directly responsible for such action. In both cases, he takes it for granted that either benefit or loss is God sent, and thus it is his grace. In case of benefit, no one will deny that it is God sent. But in case of loss or reverses, one becomes doubtful about how the Lord could be so unkind to his devotee as to put him in great difficulty. Jesus Christ was seemingly put into such great difficulty being crucified by the ignorant, but he was never angry at the mischief mongers. That is the way of accepting a thing, either favorable or unfavorable. Thus, for a devotee, the identity is equally a sinner, like the mischief monger. By God's grace, the devotee tolerates all reverses. Maharaj Parikshit observed this, and therefore he could understand that the bull was no other than the personality of religion himself. In other words, a devotee has no suffering at all, because so-called suffering is also God's grace for a devotee who sees God in everything. The cow and bull never placed any complaint before the king for being tortured by the personality of Kali, although everyone lodges such complaints before the state authorities. The extraordinary behavior of the bull king conclude that the bull was certainly the personality of religion, for no one else could understand the finer intricacies of the codes of religion. What a wonderful purport, right?
Yeah, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Yeah, so we'll repeat the couple of lines here. A devotee's conclusion is that no one is directly responsible for being a benefactor or mischief monger without the sanction of the Lord. Therefore, he does not consider anyone to be directly responsible for such action. So that's why. Because, as stated elsewhere, a devotee knows that whatever happens to me is actually my own karma that's coming back to me through the agency of this person. So this is a very important point, but we are so patient that many times we forget this, and which is why there is so much confusion and dissatisfaction throughout in our lives, because every time something happens to us, we are so quickly ready to blame the other person and deal with it and have them, answer us. We don't stop for a moment to think, this is happening because I must have done this exact same thing to somebody, I must have hurt somebody like this. So Krishna is just giving me the reaction back through the agency of this person. So there's no point in me trying to, correct the person. It's me who has to be corrected. So if I try to do this, but I know how much I fail and I forget that I have to maintain this consciousness, but this is the only solution with reversals in this material world, is to keep this consciousness, which Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here, by tolerating all the reverses. So being able to tolerate is a prerequisite for forgiveness, because without having the ability to tolerate, we can't forgive. Because when we are affected, it's very hard to forgive. When you're able to tolerate, then we can see things in their proper perspective. So this is the proper perspective, that things that are happening to me, no matter how worse they are, they wouldn't happen without the sanction of the Lord. For non-devotees, it means it's through the agency of karma, and for the devotees, it means either the karma or the Lord is personally arranging the situation for purification. Krishna tells that in many places, how he sometimes takes away things when he wants a devotee to be purified. So one of the points, this is a point that Mahatma Prabhu was also mentioning, is whenever we are put in such a situation which is kind of inexplicable, then we should think, what does Krishna want me to do in the situation? What does Krishna want me to learn from the situation? How does Krishna want me to react in the situation? So if we focus on that message rather than just venting out our own anger and resentment, then actually we will benefit from going through that painful experience, because everything has a purpose behind it. So if you focus on that purpose, then we wouldn't be disturbed by the external conditions. So, and actually, it's this one is something we very practically apply at our own like day-to-day life, whether it's with family members or friends or places at work. Sometimes people may complain against our behavior, and we may say no. We may only see that why are they always right? But actually, I've tried this many times. The complaints are many times, in more cases than not, it's valid. It's just that we don't want to accept that, and then we blame the other person, saying, "Okay, why are you always saying like this?" But actually, they are saying this because there is some purpose or there's some truth in it, and we don't want to accept that, and we have kind of repeatedly set a pattern of behavior which triggers that. So just because other person is shouting doesn't mean that we don't have anything to do with it. So it's sometimes easy to say that it's just them that's shouting, and then not talk about our side of things. But actually, if you go one step further, why are they shouting? Why are they unhappy with me? Why are they so strict or rude with me? Then we can know we have done something or abused some privileges, or not done our part properly in the past. So they are more careful and more restrictive. So this happens even within one's lifetime. What to speak of across lifetimes, right? So the things within one lifetime we can easily see and correlate. So similarly, the same things are happening across lifetimes, which is why different people get different amounts of karma, whether good or bad, depending on how good or bad their past has been. So somebody may have a very easy life with a very nice family, very nice job, very nice social situation, everything. They may just it's like a cruise. The others may find it so hard, they may get divorced, and maybe single parent, and trying to work things out, and kids are not listening, and pressure at work. Why are these things placed? Why are we differently placed? It's because of our own past actions, that the more constraints we have, the less freedom we have. That's because we must have done something to others like that. So this is the repeated chain that's happening, and the way to come out of the chain is by the original verse that we were discussing, is to become Krishna conscious and change our mindset, understanding that everything's happening according to my karma, and then try to not create further karma by not following the religious principles of tolerance, forgiveness, and all these things. And then, that's how we come out of that situation. But we have to first become aware that this is what is happening to me, and this is how I should react, and then overcome that tendency to blame the messenger, rather fix our. And when we do that, actually we find that it's actually much, much, much easier. When we really work on, it's just that we are not convinced that I am the problem. We are always easy to, conclude that it's the other person is the problem. But actually when we see that I am the problem, then Krishna gives us strength to overcome those anarthas. So that's where the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra becomes particularly beneficial, because now we can chant with a purpose. It's not that we are chanting mechanically. Now the part of the purification, Krishna's revealing of our anarthas, that itself is the first step of purification, because before we come to Krishna consciousness, we don't even know how fallen we are. We think we are so great. Actually, sometimes when we have to deal with non-devotee circles, we can see how each person is if you're going to a party or something, you can see each person is so much full of themselves, and that's what they want to show off by this, or by doing this, or by dressing in this way, or by driving such a car. It's all about projecting them and how great they are, and that's what we believe before we become devotees. But after we take to the process of Krishna consciousness, there is so much awareness. Oh my God, I am such a fallen person. Look at my qualities. The humility with which the Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings this Gopinath song. Maybe you can recite a few verses here to see how advanced devotee, even though obviously Bhaktivinoda Thakur is so advanced, but this is his genuine humility that he sings like this. O Gopinath, Lord of the Gopis, please hear my request. I am a wicked materialist, always addicted to worldly desires, and no good qualities do I possess. O Gopinath, you are my only hope, and therefore I have taken shelter at your lotus feet. I am now your eternal servant. O Gopinath, how will you purify me? I do not know what devotion is, and my materialistic mind is absorbed in fruitive work. I have fallen into this dark and perilous existence. O Gopinath, everything here is your illusory energy. I have no strength or transcendental knowledge, and this body of mine is not independent and free from the control of material nature. You want to continue, Mataji, the next 4 verses? Should I increase the font? From 5 to 8. You have to turn the switch on. Okay.
O Gopinath, the sinner who is weeping and weeping begs for your eternal place at your divine feet. Please give him your mercy. O Gopinatha, you are able to do anything, and therefore you have the power to deliver all sinners. Who is there that is more of a sinner than myself? O Gopinatha, you ocean of mercy, having come into this phenomenal world, you expand your divine pastimes for the sake of the fallen souls. O Gopinatha, I am so sinful that although the demons attained your lotus feet, Bhakti Vinoda has remained in this worldly existence.
Prabhu, you want the next 4 verses?
Okay. 2.1. O Govindatha, please remove the torment of worldly existence. I can no longer tolerate the pain of ignorance and the repeated successions of birth and death. 2.2. O Gopinath, indeed I am a servant of this lust worldly desire are awaking in my heart, and thus the nose of fruitive work beginning to the tighten. 2.3. O Gopinath, when will I wake up and abandon after the enemy of lust? When will you manifest yours in my heart? O Gopinath, I am your devotee, but having abandoned you and thus having forgotten my real treasure, I have worshipped this mundane world.
O Gopinath, you know everything. Now, having punished your servant, please give him a place at your lotus feet. O Gopinath, is this your judgment, that seeing me averse to you, you abandon your servant and don't bestow even a particle of mercy upon him? O Gopinath, I am certainly very foolish and have never known what is good for me. Therefore, such is my condition. O Gopinath, you are indeed the wisest person. Please look for a way to bring about auspiciousness for this fool, and please do not consider this servant as an outsider. You want to read the next 4 verses?
O Gopinatha, I have no means of success, but if you take me, having bestowed your mercy upon me, then I will obtain deliverance from this world. O Gopinatha, I have fallen into the of material illusion. Wealth, wife, and sons have surrounded me, and lust has wasted me away. O Gopinatha, my mind is crazy and does not care for any authority. It is always senseless and has remained in the dark pit of worldly affairs. O Gopinatha, I have accepted my defeat. All of my various endeavors were useless. Now you are the only hope. O Gopinatha, how shall I make my advancement when the mind has come under the control of powerful senses and does not abandon its attachment to materialism? O Gopinatha, after sitting down in the core of my heart and subduing my mind, please wake me to you. In this way, the horrible dangers of this world will disappear. O Gopinatha, you are Hrishikesha, the Lord of the senses. Seeing me so helpless, please control these senses and deliver me from this dark and perilous worldly existence. O Gopinatha, the noose of materialism has become fixed around my neck. Taking up the sword of your mercy and cutting this bondage, make this Bhakti Vinoda your humble servant.
Jai. So this is the mood of a devotee. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, even though he is such an advanced acharya, he is showing how a devotee feels in his heart. You know, this is how they really feel. Even though they are so advanced, this is how they really feel. It's not he's just writing it as a poem. He's actually expressing his actual feelings. That's how much they are humble and thinking like that. Now you can see if this is the mood that we should be in. Imagine what all this resentment and unforgiving attitude is going to do. That how will we be able to develop and sing these prayers from the heart if we hold so much against others in our heart? We cannot feelingly express these words. Why? Because if we are asking so much forgiveness from Krishna for our own mistakes, then how can we expect that when we are not willing to do the same to others? So that's why Krishna, is pleased when we demonstrate this quality, because that means we are honest. Yes, you are asking me for forgiveness, but you are not willing to forgive others. That seems like a hypocrisy, right? So that's something we should keep in mind, that if we want mercy, we have to be ready to give mercy to others. It's like a treatment, right? So Mahatma Prabhu asked this in a very nice way in one of the sessions in the seminar. He made this point in a very nice way, like for us to think. He said, if you are forgiven only to the degree that you forgive, then would that be a problem for you? Like if Krishna says, I can forgive you only to the degree you forgive others, would that be a problem for you? If we say yes, then we have something to work on. That means we are having a different standard for us than for others. For others, you can't be forgiven, but for me, yeah, I can be forgiven. That's not fair. So, yeah, and there are several other nice points. So he mentioned. So basically, yeah, the bull we see is showing the mood or attitude of a devotee while dealing with things in this material world. So, and one other point Prabhu mentioned nicely was, actually we have better things in life than to do these things and tell others about stories about our past. And he gave a nice definition of forgiveness. This is a really nice one. Forgiveness means to give up all hope for a better past. Think about it. Forgiveness means to give up all hope for a better past. So basically, if you are not forgiving, that means we are holding on as if that is going to change our past for a better one. But that's not going to happen, right? So it's like a futile effort to fix our past. The devotee doesn't waste time and his energy and pollute his heart by holding on to these anarthas. Rather, they forgive as a choice, as a path forward. Okay, this has happened in the past, so how do we go forward? So it's purifying, and it's in the mode of goodness. Yeah, those are some of the points from those. I didn't hear the full 6-hour course. Probably I did half of it, so I have to continue the remaining half maybe later. Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful dressing of the deities. They look so beautiful. So that's Kameshwari Mataji. Yeah. So and then there is a nice there's another nice pastime in the Bhagavatam about the dealings of Prithu Maharaj with Indra. So I thought we could read that because that's very, very instructive as to how to deal with other devotees when we are here. Yes. Probably we'll just read the translations and then we can read some purports. Maybe we can read I think we should have enough time to read the chapter. We can take turns and read. I'll start. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, King Prithu initiated the performance of 100 horse sacrifices at the spot where the river Saraswati flows towards the east. This piece of land is known as Brahmavarta, and it was controlled by Swayambhuva Manu. When the most powerful Indra, the king of heaven, saw this, he considered the fact that King Prithu was going to exceed him in fruitive activities. Thus, Indra could not tolerate the great sacrificial ceremonies performed by King Prithu. So you can see where the problem starts, right? So when we couldn't tolerate others' success, then we try to harm them. So this is all the insecurity that causes, and if that can happen to Indra, right? Who are we, right? Like we are such tiny jivas. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is present in everyone's heart as a super soul, and he is the proprietor of all planets and the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. He was personally present at the sacrifices made by King Prithu. When Lord Vishnu appeared in the sacrificial arena, Lord Shiva and all the chief predominating personalities of every planet, as well as their followers, came with him. When he appeared on the scene, the residents of Gandharva Loka, the great sages, and the residents of Apsara Loka all praised him. The Lord was accompanied by the residents of Siddhaloka and Vidyadhara Loka, all the descendants of Diti, and the demons and the Yakshas. He was also accompanied by his chief associates headed by Sunanda and Nanda. You want to continue? Next 5 verses.
Great devotees who were always engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality Head, as well as the great sages named Kapila, Narada, Dattatreya, and masters of mystic powers, headed by Sanaka, Kumara, and all attended the great sacrifice with Lord Vishnu. My dear Vidura, in that great sacrifice, the entire land came to be like Kamadhenu, and thus by the performance of Yajna, all daily necessities of life were supplied. The following rivers supplied all kinds of tastes, sweet, pungent, sour, etc. The very big trees supplied fruit and honey in abundance. The cows, having eaten sufficient green grass, supplied profuse quantities of milk, curd, clarified butter, and similar other necessities. King Prithu was presented with various gifts from the general populace and the predominating deities of all planets. The oceans and seas were full of valuable jewels and pearls, and the hills were full of chemicals and fertilizers. 4 kinds of edibles were produced profusely. King Prithu was dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Adokshaja. Because King Prithu performed so many sacrifices, he was superhumanly enhanced by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. King Prithu's opulence could not be tolerated by the King of Heaven, Indra, who tried to impede the progress of his opulence.
You want to read the next 5 verses?
Sure. One fourth Maharaja was performing the last horse sacrifice. Devasmeda and Yaznara, King Indra, invisible up to everyone, and stole the horse indeed of this sacrifice. He did this because of the great envy of the king Partha. When king is talking away the horse, the dresses himself to appear as a liberated person. Actually, this dress was a form of the cheating, for the falsely created an impression of religion. When went outer space in the way, the great sage Arati saw and understood the whole situation.
So basically, Indra was dressing as a sannyasi to beg, charity, and that's why he was dressed like that.
Okay, when the son of the king Parthu was informed by Arati of king of Indra's trick, he immediately became very angry and followed Indra to kill him, calling, "Wait. King Indra was fraudulently dressed as a sannyasa, having noted his hair on his head and smeared ashes all over the body. Upon seeing this, the son of King Partha considered Indra a religious man and pious sannyasi. Therefore, he did not realize his errors. When Arati Muni, the son of the king Partha, did not kill Indra but returned deceived by him, Arati Muni again instructed him to kill the heavenly king because he thought that Indra had become the lowest of all demigods due to the impending and execution of the king Partha's sacrifice.
Being thus informed, the grandson of King Vena immediately began to follow Indra, who was fleeing through the sky in great haste. He was very angry with him, and he chased him just as the king of vultures chased Ravana. When Indra saw that the son of Prithu was chasing him, he immediately abandoned his false dress and left the horse. Indeed, he disappeared from that very spot, and the great hero, the son of Maharaj Prithu, returned the horse to his father's sacrificial arena. My dear Lord Vidura, when the great sages observed the wonderful prowess of the son of King Prithu, they all agreed to give him the name Vijitashva. My dear Vidura, Indra, being the king of heaven and very powerful, immediately brought a dense darkness upon the sacrificial arena. Covering the whole scene in this way, he again took away the horse, which was chained with golden shackles near the wooden instrument where animals were sacrificed. Just the context is the title of this chapter is King Prithu's 100 horse sacrifices. So he did 99, so this is the 100th one. It's like a kind of a last goal in a game or something. The other side would win, right? So like that, Indra was anxious that if he lets him complete it, he will become more and opulent than himself. So he wanted to take away the horse which was meant for that 100th sacrifice. So that's why there's so much fighting here. The great sage Atri again pointed out to the son of King Prithu that Indra was fleeing through the sky. The great hero, the son of Prithu, chased him again. When he saw that Indra was carrying in his hand a staff with a skull at the top and was again wearing the dress of a sannyasi, he still chose not to kill him.
When the great sage Atri again gave direction, King Prithu became very angry and placed an arrow on his bow. Upon seeing this, King Indra immediately abandoned the false dress of sannyasi and giving up the horse made himself invisible. Then the great hero Vijitashva, the son of King Prithu, again returned to his father's sacrificial arena. Since that time, certain men with poor fund of knowledge have adopted the dress of a false sannyasi. It was King Indra who introduced this. Whatever different forms Indra is indecent because of his desire to seize the horse were symbols of atheistic philosophy. In this way, King Indra, in order to steal the horse from King Prithu's sacrifice, adopted several orders of sannyasa. Some sannyasis go naked, and sometimes they wear red garments and pass of kapalika. These are simply symbolic representations of their sinful activities. The so-called sannyasis are very much appreciated by sinful men because they are all godless atheists and very expert in putting forward arguments and reasons to support their case. We must know, however, that they are only passing as adherents of religion and are not so in fact. Unfortunately, bewildered persons accept him as religious, and being attracted to them, they spoil their life.
Maharaja Parthu, who was celebrated as very powerful, immediately look up his bow and arrows and prepared to kill Indra himself, because Indra had introduced such irregular sannyasa orders. When the priest and all of others saw Maharaja Parthu was very angry, and prepared to kill Indra, they requested him, "O great soul, don't kill him, for the only sacrificial animal killed in the sacrifice." Such are the directions given by Shastra. Dear King, Indra's power are already introduced due to his attempt to impede the execution of sacrifice. We shall call him by Vedic mantras, which were never before used, and certainly he will come. Thus, by the power of our mantra, we shall cast him into the fire because he is your enemy. My dear Vidura, after giving the king this advice, the priest who had been engaged in performing this sacrifice called for Indra, the king of heaven, in a mood of the great anger. When they were just ready to put the oblation in the fire, Lord Brahma appeared on the sense of the forbade them start to the sacrifice. Lord Brahma addressed them thus: my dear sacrificial performers, you cannot kill Indra, the king of heaven. It is not your duty. You should know that Indra is as good as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, he is one of the most powerful assistants of the personality of Godhead. You are trying to satisfy all of the demigods by the performance yajna. But you should know that all these demigods are but parcel of Indra, the king of heaven. How then can you kill him? Sacrifice.
See, it's all so complicated, right? So it's not like the rules are not so, okay, he does a mistake, why I'm going to... It's not like that. There's all these intricacies involved. You are performing a sacrifice to please the person, and that very person is acting like this. What do you do? In order to make trouble and impede the performance of King Prithu's great sacrifice, King Indra has adopted some means that in the future will destroy the clear path of religious life. I draw your attention to this fact. If you oppose him any further, he will further misuse his power and introduce many other irreligious systems. You see? So, it's not just about dealing with some impropriety, it's also how you deal with it and what is the consequence of dealing with it. So, if you're doing it from a personal viewpoint, the Brahma is saying he's already his tricks and other people are going to follow. Now if you try to act, he's going to come up with even even more tricks like that and just pollute the whole process of religion. So basically this story shows how complicated it is to deal with conflict. So it's not like you cannot just see it from just your perspective. You have to consider so many factors like that. So then Lord Brahma says this following verse: let there be only 99 sacrificial performances for Maharaj Prithu. Lord Brahma concluded. Lord Brahma then turned to Maharaj Prithu and informed him that since he was thoroughly aware of the path of liberation, what was the use in performing more sacrifices? Lord Brahma continued, let there be good fortune to both of you, for you and King Indra are both part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you should not be angry with King Indra, who is not. My dear King, do not be agitated and anxious because your sacrifices have not been properly executed due to providential impediments. Kindly take my words with great respect. We should always remember that if something happens by providential arrangement, we should not be very sorry. The more we try to rectify such reversals, the more we enter into the darkest region of materialistic thought. Such a nice instruction, right? So it's not that just by showing our anger or acting against things, you can fix things, right? If there are certain things that you can't fix, what can you do, right? We can't be. Right? That's why Krishna consciousness is the real solution. You cannot change the way the material world is working or the way people behave in this material world at all. Only thing is you have to elevate your consciousness so that you are not affected by these things. Lord Brahma continued, stop the performance of these sacrifices, for they have induced Indra to introduce so many irreligious aspects. you should know very well that even amongst the demigods, there are many unwanted desires. You can continue.
Just see how Indra, the king of heaven, creating disturbance in the midst of sacrifice by stealing the sacrificial horse. These attractive, sinful activities he has introduced will be carried out by the people in general. O King Prithu, son of Vena, you are the part and parcel expansion of the Lord Vishnu. Due to activities of King Vena, the religious principles were almost lost. At that opportune moment, you descended as the incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Indeed, for protection of religious principles, you have appeared from the body of King Vena. O protector of the people in general, please consider the purpose of you being incarnated by Lord Vishnu. These religious principles created by Indra are but mothers of so many unwanted religions. Therefore, please stop these imitations immediately. The great sage Maitreya continued, when King Prithu was thus advised by the supreme teacher, Lord Brahma, he his eagerness to perform yajnas and with great affection concluded a peace with King Indra. After this, Prithu Maharaj took his bath, which is customarily taken after the performance of a yajna, and received benedictions and due blessings of the demigods, who were very pleased by his glorious activities.
Yeah, so that's the kind of how they concluded the conflict. Now, in the next chapter, the first few verses, the Lord himself comes and blesses them. So here, since we don't have much time, I'll just go through it quickly. So the verse 2 here says, Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, said, My dear King Prithu, Indra, the King of Heaven, has disturbed your execution of 100 sacrifices. Now he has come with me to be forgiven. Therefore, excuse him. So you can see how powerful Indra is, that the Supreme Lord is asking forgiveness on his behalf, like to be excused. So basically, he explains how it's the purpose of all the sacrifices is to come to this point of knowledge and purify. So this is some philosophical instructions the Lord gives, and then gives the duties of the king. Here, this is such a beautiful verse. My dear king, I am very captivated by your elevated qualities and excellent behavior, and thus I am very favorably inclined toward you. Right? So that's the ultimate point of developing these qualities, is that the Supreme Lord is pleased, which is we started with. And then you can see here, my dear Vidura, in this way, Maharaj Prithu, the conqueror of the entire world, accepted the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead on his head. And you can see the result here. As King Indra was standing by, he became ashamed of his own activities and fell down before Prithu to touch his lotus feet. But Prithu Maharaj immediately embraced him in great ecstasy and gave up all envy against him for his having stolen the horse meant for the sacrifice. So you can see the dealings of the advanced devotees. That the thing, the purport of this, Srila Prabhupada explains in a very nice way. Yeah, here. As King Indra was standing by, he became ashamed of his own activities and fell down before King Prithu to touch his lotus feet. But Prithu Maharaj immediately embraced him in great ecstasy and gave up all envy against him for his having stolen the horse meant for the sacrifice. This is how much Prithu Maharaj was forgiving even after Indra did all this thing. And Srila Prabhupada explains why it is so important to do so in the purport, which Ramananda Saka Prabhu will read now for us. Can you give the mic to him? Yeah. You will love this purport, Prabhu.
Starting on the first paragraph.
Yeah.
There are many cases in which a person becomes an offender to the lotus feet of a Vaishnava and later becomes repentant. Here also we find that although King of Heaven Indra was so powerful that he accompanied Lord Vishnu, he felt himself a great offender for stealing Prithu Maharaja's horse that was sacrificed. An offender at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is never excused by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are many instances illustrating this fact. Ambarish Maharaja was offended by Durvasa Muni, a great sage and mystic yogi, and Durvasa also had to fall down at the lotus feet of Ambarish Maharaja. Indra decided to fall down at the lotus feet of King Prithu, but the king was so magnanimous a Vaishnava that he did not want Maharaja Indra to fall down at his feet. King Prithu immediately picked him up and embraced him, and both of them forgot all the past incidents. Both King Indra and Maharaja Prithu were envious and angry with each other. But since both of them were Vaishnavas or servants of Lord Vishnu, it was their duty to the cause of their envy. This is also a first-class example of cooperative behavior between Vaishnavas. In the present days, however, because people are not Vaishnavas, they fight perpetually among one another and are vanquished without finishing the mission of human life. There is a great need to propagate the Krishna consciousness movement in the world so that even though people sometimes become angry and malicious toward one another, because of their being Krishna consciousness, such rivalry, competition and envy can be adjusted without difficulty.
Like it? Yeah. So the Krishna consciousness is the only and ultimate solution to all these problems, because these are all stemming from the basic impurities in our heart, which stem from the fact that we have revolted against Krishna and we're trying to enjoy a world without Krishna, and there can never be peace at that level. So that's why all these principles are there to guide us to this higher levels of consciousness that ultimately concludes in Krishna consciousness, and which is why for all the problems of this world, the solution is to actually propagate the Krishna consciousness movement, as Prabhupada says here, so that the general populace becomes aware of these principles, without which not much is going to change in people's life or society's face. So, yeah, this verse explains how nicely the Vaishnavas cooperate, and there is a responsibility to cooperate. It's not that I just always hold on to my opinion no matter what. That's not the symptom of a Vaishnava. It's to see the common good and how ultimately whatever we decide serves the Supreme Lord's interests. And I'll conclude this one nice quote that Mahatma Prabhu said, again quoting from Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, one time he wrote to a devotee, like, if I don't forgive you, then Krishna will forgive you. If Krishna doesn't forgive you, then Srimati Radharani will forgive you. So Srila Prabhupada is glorifying how Srimati Radharani is, and how Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in that mode. And that's why, when we chant this Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, in a humble mood, then Lord Chaitanya helps us attain Krishna, because he is in the mood of Srimati Radharani to accept us despite all our past, and then forgive us, and then restore us to the service of Krishna once again. So with that, we'll conclude this, and now we'll have a offering of Guru, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, whose teachings are our life. So we'll glorify him by singing a nice prayer, and then we'll have prasadam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.